everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Radiorama, where as the name implies, I'll show you how to work on radios. And today we have a 1939 RCA T63, and it is in this really cool looking blonde finish cabinet. And at first I thought maybe someone redid the finish, but I don't think so. I believe this is factory original. Most of these that I've seen are in a dark mahogany cabinet. I don't know what its working condition is. And I get a feeling I probably shouldn't plug it in because it has this rotten cord on it. It is a power transformer set. I can already tell it's not going to work because I'm looking in here. All the tubes are gone. Well, shit, that sucks. That means I'm going to have to get tubes for it. It says it was marine radio and something, probably television, on 3602 Quinton Road, Brooklyn, New York. Telephone 9-6556. So, probably, I'm not sure if that's where it was bought, or if that is, I don't know. I'm going to take the back off. I'm curious what the tubes are missing. It's missing 6SA7, 6K75Y3, 6F6, 6SQ7. Yeah, I should not. Well, obviously it's not going to work. If I try to plug it in, it's not going to do anything. I'm going to take the back off and see what else is possibly wrong with this thing before I get too carried away. Well, it appears, oh good, the eye tube's at least there, but those eye tubes are usually bad. Ugh. Spider webs. The speaker seems alright. I don't see any goo dripping out of the power transformer, even though it could be dripping underneath. Anyway, I'm going to take a picture of the other side because I want to go to the museum and get all those tubes. That sucks! Well, I had 3 of the tubes in my collection, but I don't have the other 2. So I'm going to yank the chassis because I need to do it anyway. Because at this vintage, I'm 99.999% sure that the capacitors are completely shot. And since this is a power transformer set, shorted capacitors can blow up your power transformer, which is not a cheap nor necessarily easy thing to replace. They're running about $75 now, or sometimes more. A few bolts that hold the chassis in from the bottom, and obviously I need to yank the knobs and disconnect the speaker, which is plugged in. Wow, that entire panel is wiggly and coming loose. This radio is a little rough. Well, underneath I can see that looks like it's been worked on a few times in the past. This is a more modern brown drop capacitor, and it is very poorly soldered on there. Likewise, that too is a replacement, and so is this guy. My guess here, it was probably repaired sometime in the 50s at the latest. But everything else in it is original. It's a little crusty. I'm glad that most of the wiring in it is cloth covered. Here is the electrolytic capacitor. There's 3 values in it, and it's all chassis ground. Looks like this volume control and switch is also a replacement. Anyway, there you go. Before I do anything, I need to stabilize the cabinet. The more I looked at it, it's coming apart. Like, the top is about to come off entirely. And we've got some separation here. So I want to fix that before I get too far. So I'm going to get my glue and my clamps. Actually, I can't do this right now because my family's just about to pull up in the driveway. So scrap that idea. All right, welcome to day number 2 working on the RCA. And happy to report the cabinet's nice and tightly put back together again. And what I did is I went and got tubes. I'm going to stick them in the sockets, and I'm going to temporarily hook up depth wires, because what I want to do is I don't want to get too carried on the way on this thing if the transformer's hosed, because I'm wondering, why did someone remove the tubes? So we'll bring it up on a variac, and if the transformer looks like it's got life and we got filament and some margin of B+, then I'll resume the restoration. Okay, here goes nothing. Better bring it up on my variac and see if it wants to draw anything, which it doesn't seem to want to be drawing anything. Okay, let's try the other plug. All right, maybe it's not on. It wasn't on. I'm a dumbass. All right, let's try this again. All right, now it's drawing something. What I'm waiting for is to see if this is going to spike the meter. The fact that it's drawing something and then dropping down gradually is a good sign. Let me look over here and see if there's any pilot lights. We have pilot light, so that's a good indicator. That means that probably the filament string is just fine. Only at about 40 or 50 volts. And they're still not drawing that much. That's fine. Why is it doing that? Whoa. That is not a good sign. That's a sign that something is drawing too much current. I don't smell anything. Transformer doesn't seem to be having any problems. I don't see anything of those things is touching. Let me try this again. All right, turn it down. See, we still got pilot lightage. Yes. Let's see if we got any tube filaments. Oh shit, that 5Y3 is glowing purple. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, that tube is shorted. Alright, well, I gotta get another 5Y3. I know this is getting boring, but let's try it again. There we go. Yeah, that tube was sucking down the current. And all the tubes are glowing. And no sound. We're not up all the way though. Not very promising. I'm going to put the phone down and see when I can put the speaker up to my ear, see if I hear any humming. Long story short, this electrolytic's actually getting hot to the touch. That means it's completely fused. There was a little slight hum coming out of the speaker, but I mean, this thing is shorted hard. Why does this have... Never mind, it's just got some goo on it. So I'm going to replace both these electrolytics, obviously, by default. And what are their values? It's like it says 20 and 20. These older sets didn't take as high as microfarads. I'm going to put 247 microfarad caps because I don't have anything else, which is fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Is it me? Is there some weird shit inside this tube? Maybe I'll need to find another 5Y3, or it could be just fine. But let's flip it over and replace those two electrolytics. Alright, so when it comes to replacing caps in these old RCAs, if you see the original ones, they'll have their values written as such. This is upside down. This is 0.1, which is a tenth of a microfarad at 100 volts. You don't need to worry about that other number. It's just probably a part number. So you replace like with like. I'm going to replace this first so I can get to the juicy electrolytics underneath. Those are those 3 lugs. We'll need to replace all 3 of those. Probably need to replace some of this rotten rubber wiring too that's shattering, especially since some of it, like going to that electrolytic, is carrying some current, and I don't want that to short and cause problems. Alright, well, I've done the bare minimum. Replaced all 3 of the electrolytics. Replaced some of the wiring that was critical. I also had the cap here. I had one cap up here where the end had completely come off. Another reason why it probably didn't work. I've soldered on a new cord. I'm going to hook up the speaker and see if it makes noise. The answer is I think it might work. Got no antenna obviously connected. And the eye tube is dead. I think those radios had a ton of use on it, so I'm going to try to wire up the antenna and see if it makes any noise. Well, there's no radio. The radio you're hearing is actually simulcast online. Got audio, but no radio, and I think there's just a bunch of shitty old caps in there that still need to be replaced. Okay, well, I've replaced the rest of the paper capacitors, and sometimes these mica caps can go bad, but I'm going to leave those in for now and see if there's any improvement. There was also some really bad quality wiring from the previous repair person, so I had to come in here and clean a lot of it up. Like, they done silly things when they replaced the volume control. They clipped the legs off of the old volume control and soldered those along with the old wiring to the new pot, which is like, why would you do that? But anyway, it's pretty sloppy. I'm also going to clean up the controls with a little contact cleaner. In fact, I've been using this stuff that works pretty great. It's WD-40 contact cleaner. Just get all those controls real good. And you'll probably want to work them in a little bit. Alright, so let me reattach the antenna. We'll fire this up, and if it doesn't work this time, it's time to start with the basics, such as measuring B+ and checking tubes. Well, I just made my own idiotic discoveries about what I did. I've done this before, but I lost my place when I was rewiring, and I accidentally jumpered one of the IF cans to the wrong place. It needs to go over here. Because it's got no antenna, but it really wants to pick up. Now we got full volume. So, repairman's error. Okay, well, I managed to get the thing to work.
19 to voter suppression. Become great players or highly paid. Reduce the vast majority.
Voter participation.
A little bit new technology forms. We definitely
I'll do things my time and my way. Things when I'm ready.
Still got a lot of dirt in these pots. Excuse me. I also need to redo the connections on the antenna. I'm sorry, I was drinking soda. I know that's really rude. Probably wouldn't hurt to touch these guys up. These are probably way out of alignment. Radio probably needs to be realigned. Man, that eye tube is really crammed up against that thing there. There is bent, maybe. All right, well, I decided to do a little change-a-roo, and I cleaned up the cabinet a little bit more, and 2 of the glue blocks came falling out. So I had to do more gluing. This must have been somewhere damp or somewhere extremely hot and dry. I did clean up the chassis, even though it's not totally necessary. I just think it looks better, and I feel better about it. And now we're going to use the zoom spout oil to oil all of the little bearing surfaces, including the one in the front here, in the tuning condenser area, and the one in the back here, and then the one over here. So that means that'll probably, yep, that feels so much better. Doesn't hurt to put a little bit on your volume controls either. Their shaft, so it's gonna turn easier. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do now is wait for that cabinet to dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna apply some oil and furniture stuff to it. All right, next up, I'm gonna use Old English for light woods. You don't want to use it for dark woods because you'd stain this. I'm just gonna come in here and wipe it into the surface real good. It'll kind of rejuvenate the finish and remove, you know, slight discolorations and scratches. You know, it looks like the finish in this is actually in pretty good shape, considering how bad the woodwork was being held together. Could just be the glue they used, because I'm not familiar with this cabinet design. Well, this coloration as far as the finish goes. I'm not sure if I've actually seen this exact cabinet design either, even though it looks pretty typical in shape for RCA of the late 30s, early 40s. They seem to have a kind of a conservative styling, which I don't half dislike actually. I think it looks really good in this color actually. It's pretty. Alright, well I'm going to go over the whole thing with it. Probably very liberally because I want it to soak in. Okay, next up I need to replace this cloth. Unfortunately it's pretty far gone. I think I have something that'll look pretty similar. Because as nice as this cabinet is turning out, it'd be a shame to put this crappy looking grill cloth back in. It would kind of ruin the clean look of it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is recover the old speaker cloth thingy, because the old speaker grill cloth was shot. This is a very sloppy job. All of this had become delaminated. It's like breaking apart, so I glued it all back together again and clamped it up. You won't see any of that because I'm covering grill cloth. And I had my wife kind of come out here, and I asked her, like, what kind of grill cloth would look good on this? And I showed her a few examples. She said, you know, it's kind of a blonde cabinet. So she suggested this grill cloth, which I think is a good option, but it needs to be ironed out. Then we're going to cut to size it for this, you know, mount. And I also need to get a replacement screw because I was missing one of those. All right, the next thing we want to do is iron it. And I want to put it on steam. Be careful, this stuff is rayon. And it will melt if you iron it too much. And I put a towel underneath it because then it'll, I don't know, my wife taught me that trick, even though probably everyone that irons knows it's a trick. It's not a trick at all, it's just basic housekeeping stuff. I don't know. My job in the household is clean the bathroom, the kitchen and stuff, and clean the cars and change the oil. She empties to cat litter, which I have to admit is not fun, but I'm glad she does it. We try to make our lives a little bit easier. But anyway, that looks like that's pretty flat, not discolored or anything. So I can get the piece of wood, which is actually sitting in the convection oven right now, fully drying out. And I'll put it upside down on this. We'll measure and cut and glue it on. All right, we got our new grill cloth installed. And the speaker reinstalled. So the last thing I'm going to do for calling it quits for tonight is I'm going to wax the cabinet. You can see there's some wear and some discoloration around the knobs and stuff. So I want to use this old-fashioned Carnauba cleaner wax and an old rag and a soft cloth, and that'll bring back the original luster from when it looked like when it was new at the factory. Welcome to day 3, working on the RCA with the blonde cabinet. And as seen from last night, I was able to really bring this finish back. I might even polish it just a little bit more. I think what I'm going to do is I would like to make sure that all the seams are properly glued up. So I'm going to turn it upside down. So I want to make sure the bottom's going to be, well secured. And then it's going to be time to think about reassembling. Okay, so I glued the bottom and the upper top here. And the last thing I want to do before calling it quits on the electronics is to install an audio input, which this already has. This is the phono input. So I'm just going to drill out this hole a little bit bigger, run this audio cable through it for a rubber grommet, and attach it to the phono section here. Alright, well here it is. It's pretty simple. I just run the right and left channels through a set of resistors. The value is not super important. Usually I run from, 30 to 50 ohms per channel. That's important. You don't want to just twist your right and left channels together because you can ruin your input device doing it that way. I ran the cord and tied a knot through this rubber grommet, and I put glue through it so you can't, either yank on it or push it in. It's just going to stay there. So with that, I believe it's about time to get this thing over. The other thing I did is I bought some LED number 47s. Now, that's fine for a transformer set like this, but on an AA5, I recommend you stay with incandescent because it's actually part of the important part of the filament string. Not saying it's not here, but it's more or less just tapping off of it versus being a part of it. Also, and I mention this every time I do this audio input, which is you do not want to do what I've done here, and if the set does not have a power transformer. The transformer, if it has one, is isolating you from possible electrical hazard. Now, on either a hot chassis or floating chassis set, you really need to go through an isolation transformer. Absolutely, bar none, just automatic, even if it's floating ground. It's just good safety, and in some cases it actually make the sound better. But now that we've got all this done, I'm going to bring the old cabinet over here and we'll shove it back in, give it a test fire, see if it still works.
That it's good to be alive today.
Anyway, KEXP out of Seattle has a station they bought in the Bay Area, and so now we get KEXP Alameda, which is my city, as well as Oakland, San Francisco, all under KEXP. And I listen to them along with my East Tennessee station WDVX. But anyway, I'm running the audio through this because obviously this doesn't pick up FM.
Turn off your swag.
But then, if I turn it to radio, we get
a 9 seed, maybe even an 8 seed. Now you're here in the first 4.
First woman to announce a champion.
Kansas closing at 8 p.m. Eastern time. California and Arizona close.
Es muy importante.
You can throw it accurately.
We want to move from understanding.
Nice and sensitive. Got a good clean sound too. Anyway, I love the way this thing turned out. I mean, if I had like endless storage spaces for radios, I would buy this, but I can't because I don't have room. And also it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the museum. But someone's going to be real happy with it, just not me. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching this episode of Radio-Rama. And until the next time radio comes across my workbench, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.